Hi, welcome. This is the third video in the series about how the government wanted the railway strikes in order to bring in the new anti-strike laws. Let's go ahead and watch the video.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jack, you wanted to have a supplementary and then come to Ben for the last
Thank you, Chair.
section.
This is to what Mr Lynch said a few moments ago around reduction of funding to the railways. You just suggested around 2 million. NAO figures show that the amount of government funding to the railways has actually doubled since 2015-16 to 2019-20. So where do you get your figures from?
I get it from the employers. They told me they've been asked to reduce their costs by 2 billion. I get it from the London Mayor, when I go and meet him and the Commissioner for London Transport, says I've been told to reduce my budget by 2 billion. That's what the savings are for. You've increased the funding. It doesn't go to our people. It goes to these private sector operators and to Network Rail. We don't get all the money. The pay bill in the railway industry is quite modest. The staffing is at low levels.
That the government are putting more money into
the government is putting money into it. They'll probably all have to put money into it. I would ask why they put money into the railway and allow rolling stock companies and train operating companies and Network Rail subcontractors to extract billions of pounds of profit since the 90s straight into people's pockets in through dividends. So you'll do the same with health and all the rest of it eventually when you get the opportunity. So you'll fund them, but you'll shovel it into the private sector. That's what you've been doing. They take profits. They made profit every day during the pandemic, and they've made profit on every day of these strikes. They get protected against the loss of revenue, and they've not been affected, bottom line. 2 of the companies are subject to speculators' takeovers, and one of them has been taken over during this dispute. There's loads of money in the railway. It's being made by private sector operators. Get Porterbrook and all them down here and ask them what they've done with all the money. You funded that completely.
A minute ago you suggested that the public are behind you on that. That is not what latest figures show. It shows that public support is waning and that you don't any longer have the support of the public for these strikes. Is that concerning to you?
It depends which poll you read. I went on Good Morning Britain the other day where Richard Madeley was on attack mode. They did a poll shortly after that and said there was 75% support for the RMT. So it depends which poll you read of who's winning this. What was expected in the DFT is that we'd have zero support and we'd be back to work with no strikes by the end of June. Once your friends in the Daily Mail and the Telegraph and all these other journals followed me from my house to the station, invaded my children's Facebook pages and all the rest of it, that we would be public enemies number one. We're not. I'm a more popular person than many of the politicians in this room, unfortunately, for the public. But the fact is that we have got a lot of support. It's difficult to get support during industrial disputes. But if you ask the public, do they sympathise with people getting a decent pay rise? Do they sympathise with the protection of contracts of employment and conditions? They will say yes. It's difficult to keep that support going fully during intense industrial action, but there is broad support for all the people that are involved in disputes at this time, and there's very little for the support for the people that are opposing those disputes and trying to make people poorer. Are you
concerned about the increasing number of your members who are now turning out during strike days and turning up to work?
Well, we don't have those. We don't have reports. That's what we would call propaganda. That we're being told that.
No, those are actual figures. So
figures from who?
Figures from Network Rail, figures that are showing that increasing number of members of your unions now are actually turning up to work.
How do they know they're members of my union?
Well, I mean,
that's a protected characteristic.
There are more people
that's
who
a protected characteristic.
Work
but how do they know they're members of my union?
There were previously.
But how do they know they're members?
It's a pure fact.
Because one union has settled.
Sorry?
One union has settled. There are 43,000 people work for Network Rail. 21,000 of them are members of my union. Mm-hmm. So there would be more people at work than not on any strike day.
So it isn't concerning to you then that more are...
We don't have those reports. I get reports from picket lines all over the country that they are well attended and that the action we take is having the same effect as it did on day one.
Thank you, Chair.
If I could contribute, Chair, briefly.
Yes.
our reports are we're 100% solid. What we are intrigued at, of course, is that on the non-strike days, other grade groups being paid to drive trains and setting the new rate of pay for the industry. So on top of the higher pay than we get, they get £500 a day in LNER. I believe in one of Mr Montgomery's companies, they're getting £300 a day on non-strike days for driving trains when we're not in dispute with them. So if that's going to set the tone and the level of what people should be paid in this negotiation, it will become increasingly interesting.
Frank, you kind of articulated the problem with the percentage increase a moment ago when you compared the wages of a ticket office staff to a senior manager. You're all very experienced trade unions, so I don't know whether you saw the article by two veteran government negotiators, Joe Haynes and Bernard Donoghue, on Friday in the Times, suggesting that a flat rate cash payment reflecting the increase in the cost of living for everybody might be a way to address the pay issue in this dispute. Is that at all feasible in your view? Just very brief, just yes or no answers would do.
Well, there's an element of that in one of the offers that we've got, and we're not averse to any sensible proposal. We'll consider it. It depends, what it is. But the format doesn't particularly bother me. We'll see whether it matches up to the problem or not.
Mick, again, we'd give due consideration to any offer that put a dent in the cost of living crisis. We'd be obliged to.
Right.
How we settled the pay claim for our own staff this year, actually, believe it or not. We would consider it, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this morning. Slightly overrun, but we've had a good airing of the issues. You're very welcome to stay for the second panel if you wish. We'll be putting some of the points raised to them. But for now, thank you for your
Leave a comment below and do subscribe. Hit the notification icon and click on the like button. Is the government to blame for these strikes?